Good morning, how are you today? So, coronavirus, it's here in a massive way, and I wanted to just have a few moments with you just to reflect on my thoughts, particularly on how this impacts conversations at home as parents. Clearly, I'm not going to give any medical advice or any thoughts on self-isolating, etc., because that's well above my pay grade. What I want to talk about is the impact that this is having on us as families. I think the first thing that it's doing is it's bursting that illusion of control. I mean, I when I look at my diary for the next 3 months, I suddenly realise that who knows if any of this stuff's actually going to happen? Who knows what sporting events are going to happen for my kids? Who knows what educational stuff is going to happen? Who knows what family gatherings are going to happen? And that's a pretty weird feeling, isn't it, for those of us who are used to being in the perception that we are massively in control. And I think that's going to be a conversation that's echoed around family homes across the world, particularly because us kind of middle-class Western families, we love a bit of control, and I guess we live in this mythological illusion of control quite a bit. And I certainly know that there'll be conversations in homes around exams coming up. Will they happen? Will they not happen? Revision. I know some kids are going to be really excited. School's potentially going to be out for a chunk of time. Other kids will be quite anxious about what's going to happen with that, particularly as they look to the future and try and work that out. And I think all these conversations obviously are completely normal. They're going to create an emotional response in our kids. For those of us whose kids love sport, sport plays a weird and unique place in our society. What's going to happen now without sport? How are we going to find those social connections, release of those emotional energies? And we're not in control of any of that anymore. We're now at the control or mercy of governments, health officials, whether we get this horrible bug or not. And I think for me it's just a really important time to reflect on with our kids that, you know what, we're not actually in control. There are minor little things that we can control: how we treat our neighbours, how much loo roll we buy, whether we make wise choices about how we progress through this, or trying to make wise choices. But we're not really in control of the big picture. And I find that challenging, and the conversations at home are going to find that challenging as well. And I guess linking out of that is questions around our own mortality. I know a number of parents have said to me, including in my own home, that kids are asking, are we going to die? Who is going to die? My own son asked me, who in our family is the most vulnerable, Dad? Who do you think's going to die? And I said to him, mate, I think we're all going to die. And he looked at me like really worried. I said, no, you don't misunderstand me. I don't think we'll all die from corona, but we are all going to die. And this kind of, we're immortal, and especially kids think like that. That's very normal, but it is also very normal for kids to ask honest questions around mortality. And I think it was C.S. Lewis, in his famous book on grief, talked about how in the Western world we just have this assumption that we're entitled to 70 plus years, and that isn't the reality around the world. And I guess in the Western world we're going to experience that now. I'm hoping, not on a massive scale, I'm hoping it doesn't affect my family or your family, but it will affect some of us. And I think it's really healthy for our kids to have good conversations around their own mortality, and getting used to seeing life as a gift rather than an entitlement, and learning to enjoy the day rather than assume that we're entitled to another 20 after it. And those are challenging conversations. I find those conversations challenging, especially as I manage my own sense of unease about what's happening. But I think as your kids raise those questions with you, don't be afraid of them. And don't be afraid to give honest answers either. I think kids really can see through, don't worry, everyone's going to be all right, because kids know that isn't the case, especially in the 24-hour news cycle that exists on all forms of social media. I think kids know that that's not true. So how are you handling that conversation around control and around your kids? Everyone's just on normal mortality. And I think the last thing for me that this present state which we find ourselves in, and I think obviously it changes almost daily, and in a week's time I might have another set of reflections, but is actually around our identity. If our kids' identity is based around what sport they play, or what exam results they're going to get, or what career or university they want to go to, then they're going to find this time really, really challenging. And I think it's a real wake-up call for us as parents to make sure that our identity is not based on being in control. Our identity is not based in outcomes. And I don't think any parent ever sets out to create that identity, but sometimes accidentally that happens. And now as sport is sadly taken away from us and more important things like education, family gatherings, etc., we are going to find out who we really are in all this, I guess. And I think for me, I don't want to be critical of people who've overbought toilet rolls. For me, overbuying toilet rolls is in part a response, I believe, to people trying to exert control, trying to base their identity in being in control rather than having a bigger, wider understanding of things that are going on. I think this is a time where our deeper stories and our deeper narratives take place. I love that. Look, I've just said that. There's a tree. That's an oak tree. It's a beautiful oak tree in the woods that I walk. There used to be a manor house just behind me here. During the World War II, it was used to host German refugees from World War II. This place is rich in heritage. That tree would have been there then. That tree has deep roots into history and into story, and I think as families it's important we have deep stories. As a person of faith, as a Christian, I have hope. I have a lot of anxiety. I'm nervous about what's going to happen. I'm nervous about what's going to happen to non-perfect dad in this time, but I also have hope, and I guess how we communicate hope to our kids in uncertain times is always a challenging conversation as well. I hope you enjoy the gift of today. Go well in the awkward conversations that you have. Go well in trying to understand that we've never really been in control, and as we all reflect on our own mortality and as we try and have identities as families that are not based in output and in identities based in sport or exam, but are deeply rooted in who each of our children are as we perceive them as whole human beings, deeply loved, just as you and your identity, I guess. As I wrestle with who I'm going to be as a church minister in the next couple of months and as a business owner, my identity isn't found in either of those things. I'm hoping to use both things to serve people well, but my identity isn't found in either of those things. And this is a good time for me to get that identity anchored back into who I really am as Richard, who I am loved by, and how I am loved and how I love. Sorry, this has gone on a bit longer than normal, but I just think it's an important topic to look at. What conversations are coming up in your household during this time on the sermon? Please pop a comment in the comments box. If you disagree with me, let me know. I mean, this is a time for us to get mature online, isn't it, and have some honest conversations. Today, love your kids, stay safe, be wise, and I will catch up with you soon. Bye.